Trustee Reed? Here. Trustee Galindo? Here. And President Maxwell is here. Will you all please stand and do the pledge of allegiance? Please follow. Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Uh, 3.5, approve, adopt the agenda, and I was just handed a thing. There has been an addition to the agenda, and that is we've added a few last-minute hires to the personnel register. The new version can be found online and on our Board Docs website, and we have paper copies in the back. So I'm looking for a motion.
I move that we adopt the
District mission statement: we are a collaborative, culturally rich, educational community where a rigorous and innovative curriculum prepares our students to be successful contributors to our global society. Here's some of the fun ones. Item 4, recognitions. The Board of Education recognizes students, employees, or members of the community who have received recognition for academic or athletic achievement, or have made significant contributions of any kind to the district. The following individuals will be recognized: Claudia Rodriguez, and that is Mr. White.
Well, thank you so much. It's an honor for me to be able to have Claudia here today. When I was asked for a student to recommend, all of us in our front office, the first person they thought of was Claudia. Claudia has been spending numerous hours with us this summer, helping staff who were brand new to our school get their rooms set up, make sure they had supplies ready. So she would basically go from room to room asking anyone if they needed help. And those people would, of course, take advantage of Claudia's skills because she knows a lot about our school. And also, too, she helped in the office, she helped out with challenge aids with the different orientations. So she's just an amazing young lady who has been improving her grades on a daily basis and working hard in school. And we just love Claudia. And it's with honor that we recommend you for this honor today. So thank you so much, Claudia, for everything you do.
Congratulations. Congratulations. And Michelle Hickman, CES and Calistoga High parent for dedication to our schools as a volunteer for Music Boosters, school field trips, and a member of the PTA and school site council. Nicole.
So when it came to our selection this year for CES, Michelle holds a very near and dear place in my heart because when I first came on at Calistoga Elementary, I met her at the first winter concert that we had, and she was there making sure that all the students got to their marks, their entry, leaving correctly. And then since then, every time we have some kind of event at CES, whether it is picture day, whether it is our end of the year book sales day, even on every student field trip where her children are part of the class, Michelle is there. She also did volunteer work. She also came on our Yosemite trip, which when we talk about that after the trip, that's a huge commitment to participate in that. She is in charge of the Music Boosters and has organized our music presentations to give that shout out and support to our Music Boosters. And just really in terms of when we were looking for site council, it just made such logical sense to me to invite her to be part of that because she is so a part of all the activities that we have over at CES. I know now that Victoria is over at the junior senior high. I'm going to be a little jealous because that means I have to share her a little bit. But she just follows with her children and follows with the programs that support all of our students in Calistoga. So I could go on and on. I just really appreciate everything you do for us.
Okay, moving on. Item 5, public comments. 5.1, public business from the floor, non-agendized items. This portion of the agenda allows an individual the opportunity to address the board on any item regarding board business that is not on the agenda. Without taking action or entering into a dialogue with the public, board members may briefly respond to statements made or ask clarifying questions about topics posed by the public. Your matter may be referred to administration. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Any white cards from anybody? No? All right. Seeing no rush to the podium, we're going to move on to item 6, public hearing. 6.1 protocol. As elected governing body of the Calistoga Joint Unified School District, the Board of Trustees conduct public hearings for the purpose of maintaining open communication with parents, students, and residents of the Calistoga community and in the school district. Through the public hearing process, trustees seek ideas and viewpoints regarding the efficiency and quality of district-sponsored programs or any other area of the operation of the district and its schools. The trustees believe that open communication is a key element in the ongoing process of the district, school, and program improvement. The subject, 6.2, is sufficiency of instructional materials. So we are going to open the public hearing at 6:08. Comments from staff? So we have sufficient instructional materials this year. We had this a couple times where we didn't. We fixed that process. Any comments from the public? Moving on, we're going to close this hearing at 6:09. Item 7, reports, correspondence, discussion items. 7.1, LCAP report, summer school program. Joel Brenner.
All right, good evening. Joel Brenner, I was the summer school teacher this last summer. I'm also a career teacher at CES. So our summer school focus this year was for students who would benefit from reading, writing, math, ELD support, and that would also be given additional supports with regards to kind of getting an upfront or unique view of the upcoming school year, so they were able to kind of see what was coming.
Can you, Joel, can you get a little closer to the mic?
Sure can.
Or-
Yeah. So as I was saying,
That's better.
that's better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for the elementary and junior high, we're looking for students who could benefit from reading, writing, math, ELE, and also kind of get a preview of the upcoming year's curriculum to kind of give them a jump start on what they might see in their fall classes. Now for high school, we're focusing on credit recovery. Some of the high school credit recovery, one of them was APEX, so an online curriculum, and the other was Teacher Guide. That was Ben Hartel did some English 9 and English 10, and those were basically, the goal was to provide high school graduation units for graduation. As far as hours go, pretty standard. This was similar schedule to years past, so we had the elementary basically came in, had breakfast about 8 a.m. Class started about 8:30, so that gave about 225 minutes of instruction per day, and totaling 15 days for junior high. Similar class schedule, but they had classes on Friday, meaning that the total days went up to 19 days for the session. And for high school, a bit longer. Their classes started at 8 a.m. and they were released at about 1:15. So then they also had 19 days of class. Student attendance. So initially we had 200 students enrolled. By the end we had about 177. Some of that was due to students who may not have been coming regularly or were not following through on curriculum and those types of things. But we had a really steady attendance, right around 80% plus throughout, and we made a real strong push the last week to make sure that they were coming in. So we tried to really kind of just let them know that, hey, we're going to push through. We're going to make sure that we're learning all the way through the session, so we have a nice, fairly even attendance throughout the session. And total instructional hours, almost 12,000 total hours. I was really happy with the testing progress. We had, it was also important to have some pre-tests. So we had pre-tests prior to, or actually I should say the first couple of days of summer school and a post-test at the end. Most teachers were doing reading inventory and math inventory. And as you can see, there's really nice growth. The teachers were extremely organized, professional. You walk through the halls and these guys were really pushing these students, and generally speaking, their scores went up nicely. So I was happy to see that. So there's good results from the beginning to the end. As long as it's not my face. Progress report. So this was something that was really helpful this year. I'm not sure if it had been done in the past, but felt it necessary to require all teachers to do progress reports halfway through the session, just to make sure there was good communication with parents for any students who may have been struggling. It was a good opportunity to have parents kind of be in the know about what was going on. Also gave us an opportunity to give additional supports to the students who might be struggling. Just mainly also didn't want to have any surprises at the end of the summer session if students did not receive credit or something to that effect. So that was really successful. A lot of students progress reports, but there was also a lot of follow through from the students and parents after those were sent through that kind of helped them push through the rest of the session. And that was for actually all grades. High school credit recovery, we had Mr. Hartel, again, did English 9 and 10. So we had 47 students recover credit, 6 were unsuccessful. Most of that was due to not coming in. We had a strict attendance policy that we followed through on. So most of the unsuccessful students resulted in mainly not coming in, following through during the school day. As far as the online program, we had APEX again, that's an online curriculum, and we had 17 credits recovered, 12 were unsuccessful. I think the 12, it's a difficult one. It's it takes a lot of independent work. some of these guys may not be as used to kind of pushing through on those independent work, so we did have some unsuccessful, but we did have quite a lot who were successful throughout the summer in high school. Improvement celebrations to kind of wrap it up. I thought it was a really successful summer session. As I said, I walked through the hallways, saw just really great teachers and staff and students giving great effort. Room for improvement, there were some middle school discipline issues. You might want to consider, not due to teachers, I think it's just a hard age group sometimes because it's not credit recovery. So it might be worth looking into maybe a different curriculum or a new style of teaching for that age group, maybe down the road. And then again, we had 12 students, it should have been unsuccessful. We had 12 students who were unsuccessful with the Apex High School. That's a tough one, but there's always room for improvement, and I would like to see that number decrease in the future. Celebrations, we had 64 high school credits recovered, so these are going to help these guys get into college and beyond. As I showed you, we had great test score improvement in math and reading overall improvement. Very few, barely remember any, but very few elementary and high school discipline issues. These guys were in there, less than working hard. Food program was fantastic. Kept the kids happy and fed and ready to work. Staff was great. Everybody from the district administrators to site staff, all the folks who helped get the rooms ready and set for everyone, teachers. It was really a team effort. And then as far as the school site, again, I hadn't done it previously, but it seemed a good fit as far as working at CES. We had good separation between elementary, middle, and high school. The facilities were fantastic, and so I thought that was something to celebrate as well.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Were all students that wanted to go to summer school, were they able, were there any not allowed?
Well, most of them were teacher recommended, so they were chosen based on the teacher's need, or what they felt was the students who would be the biggest need. So, and we did have a limit. We had limits on classes. So we had many students many of the groups we actually had to do second and third calls to make sure that we were filling the classes. So I don't recall many that wanted to be there that didn't, but typically the students with the highest need were filling the spots.
And your recommendation about the change of curriculum in the middle school, what ideas?
That's a great question, and I know that there's some things floating around. I haven't done a lot of research in that yet, but I know that there are some curriculums out there specifically geared to middle school because a lot of these guys, it's an age level that can be difficult, and they're not for credit recovery, so they don't quite have some of the carrots that a high schooler might have in summer school. And some of these guys have been in summer school for years, so they kind of lose a little bit of steam. So, I know there's some things out there, and I'd be more than happy to research those and pass along what I find.
I just want to address that too.
Okay. They tend to keep it off.
I just want to comment on the 7th and 8th grade program, middle school program. We are investigating a special program. It will be a 5-week program, so it would address the concerns that Joel has. I'll be bringing back some information at the October meeting about that.
My last question, so from the teacher's recommendation, their recommendations are allowed, or is there any other step in between?
We try to leave it up to the teachers, just because they know the students the best. Of course, there's always, some things that may come up. We may have to make a decision on that regard, but we try to keep it based on the teacher's decision, just mainly because they know the child the most.
Any other questions?
Sorry, I just wanted to differentiate because I think that when you're talking about summer school, from the elementary perspective, what we tried to do is look at students who had similar data points, and then also moving backwards from there, looking at how many spots we could accommodate. We were doing combination classes, which meant that we did have a limited amount of sections that we could give out, a limited amount of seats that we could be allotting for students. And then at the same time, where the data is important is that you want your students to have some areas where you can bring them together and do some re-instruction opportunities. So while some we were not able to accept every single student into summer school, we wanted to create a situation where we could do some reteaching and some preview. And I'm not sure of how the secondary, so I'm going to hand it over to Craig.
Well, at the secondary level, the approach is probably a little bit different. It's not enrichment as much at the high school level. It's more who failed English in 9th and 10th grade and who needs credit recovery in specific subject matters. I know our school counselor, Ms. Craig Morales, met with all the students, talked to them, encouraged them to go. So this is really important. Worked closely with Joel to make sure those kids who were targeted needed to be there. Because we want to continue having 100% of our students graduate, and if they don't make up these specific classes. And then at the middle school level, it was really kids who were targeted that needed math and reading intervention, who were at a certain specific level, and that was the group, correct me if I'm wrong, Joel, that was targeted for the middle school in the 7th and 8th grade. It's 10 weeks, right? 10 weeks off. And if you're not reading and doing math, you can still fall there behind, and we didn't want that to happen. We also had our EL students too that were participating, because 10 weeks of going back to a home environment where they're speaking Spanish, and sometimes you need to continue learning, growing in your English language skills. So that was our cohort. Did I capture that right?
Yeah, and Michelle was wonderful as far as gathering the students who needed those units.
She looked at their transcripts.
Yeah.
So I have a question for Nicole, I'm sorry. Thought I was done. So in that situation where you have a combination class, and you have a student that is nowhere near 4th grade, and a student that is at the threshold, that student that needs more help, is he allowed, or is she allowed, or is that decision anywhere in the...
Well, basically the process that the teachers used is they reviewed their RI and MI and other locally based assessments to see where we call them the second quartile students. And part of that is because the students who are at the lowest level, we tend to cover through SST processes. We tend to meet with the parents with frequency. So we were looking at pushing that level 2 student a little bit more, and that was at least the data perspective of the group that we selected. So if you were a student who was really performing at an academic struggle, we were having already conversations with that family about what kind of in-school supports can we have for those students. Right now the reality is that we get one class for every 2 grade levels, so we have to kind of figure out what is the group that isn't necessarily getting that same level of attention during the school year. And so that's where we narrow down in terms of finding support.
Does everybody understand what MI is and RI? Okay. It's a way for us to basically assess what students know and can be able to do. They take a test, assessment, and they're given a score, a number. And within that number, there's a range with both the reading inventory, which we used to call Lexile, and math inventory. And it'll say, well, the student is in the 1st grade, band, and then this child is in the 2nd grade band, 3rd grade band, and so on. So it's a way to, like I said, for us to know what a student knows and can be able to do within those specific targeted areas in math and in reading.
Any questions?
I just want to make a comment that this was Joel's first year as our summer school principal, and I think he did a fantastic job. He was professional, he was organized, he was a great communicator, he worked closely with the principals on placement of the students and summer school started, so thank you, Joel.
All right, moving on, 7.2, College and Career Center report. Carla Serber, College and Career. Yes, you again. Center Coordinator, welcome.
Thank you. Microphone. How's that? Perfect. Good? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So, my priorities for last year were supporting students in these areas. And we did lots of tours. We went to the NBC Transfer Day, UC Merced, Sonoma State, Sacramento State, Dominican, Cal Maritime, SRJC Career Technical programs. Those were so much fun, and I want to take kids 7 at a time this year. Just to really targeted support. The Calistoga Promise organized for us a trip for our intro to construction students to go to the Four Seasons. They toured the entire job site. I got to go to that too. That was a lot of fun. And we have another one of those in the works because obviously a lot has happened between May and now. And the hospitality folks over there are going to come in and push into Ed's culinary class. So they'll get to see the whole hospitality experience that'll be happening over there as well. We had rep visits. I used something in Naviance that allows reps to go in and schedule themselves. You give a series of dates and times. So we had reps from Grand Canyon University who actually, all the students applied while he was there, presenting to them. They were all accepted. And then they got to go on an all-expenses paid trip to Phoenix, Arizona to tour the campus, which was huge for our kids. They all came back and said, yeah, no. But they got to go and see it.
Process of elimination.
That's right, yes, exactly. We also had reps from UC Davis, Sonoma State, Fashion Institute, Design Merchandising, FITM. Are you going to help me with this one, Julie? École Hôtelière de Lausanne. Thank you. So the Swiss hospitality, world-renowned, the rep came and presented to students. And, explain to them that we're not just talking about working in a hotel or in a restaurant, that folks who graduate from there go into all kinds of fields. Accounting, personal assistants, everything. So that was exciting. NBC, SRJC, and the Art Institute of California. Those were all folks that came to us. For financial aid, the financial aid workshops on October 1st, which is the day that the FAFSA opens, 65% of our seniors completed their FAFSA or California Dream Act application. And 64% of our seniors applied for our local scholarship program. And speaking of scholarships, in 2011, there were 47 individual scholarships awarded. Last year, 84 individual scholarships were awarded. So we've nearly doubled the number of scholarships being awarded, and most of this is due to local donors increasing the number of scholarships, but it's also due to robust and targeted scholarship support for our students. We had students applying for regional and national scholarships that we've never done before. In fact, we had 3 DACA students who earned the Dream US Scholarship, which takes the place of the Pell Grant, which they're not eligible for. So that's a $7,000 a year scholarship for 4 years. Wow. And in terms of how much the awards were, so from $55,000 in 2011 to $137,000 last year in our awards night. A lot of that is an increase in single-year scholarship award amounts, but also several of our local donors are now funding multiple years. Specifically, the Rotary, Calistoga Young Women, and the Athletic Boosters have all funded multiple-year scholarships. This is a number we want to get bigger. So in 2015, 37% of the class received local awards. And this year, past year, it was 64% of the senior class received local awards. Percent of money to top 5 students, we want to get smaller. So in 2015, 70% of the local scholarship money went to the top 5 students. By diversifying the eligibility criteria, we've been able to distribute that money a little more equitably. And it's fun to meet with the donors and go through what are their priorities, what do they want to support. And that creates a scholarship pool that it gets 64% of your senior class to apply because there's something for everybody. In terms of choices, and this is where I take my job very seriously, what I am learning is that our students and their families don't know a lot about choices. Where our students are headed. So that 54% of our students going to a 4-year is a 23% increase over the previous year. Part of the reason for that's mainly due to the size of the Avid class, which represented nearly half of the senior class last year. So the purpose of Avid all along is to go to a 4-year university. So these numbers are really different from the previous year, but you have to look at the size of the class and the number of students in the Avid class. 16% to a 2-year for transfer. I'm excited about that other number, which we can't read. Is that 17? The certificate? Because those were students who through those rep visits and tours were able to zero in on a particular certificate program that they wanted to pursue. We send so many kids off to the 2 years who say, yeah, I'm going to transfer. But they don't have a plan for what that looks like, and they don't even know about those career technical certificates or associate's degrees that are available to them. So that's progress. Of the number attending 4-year universities, 9 TUCs, 13 to CSUs, and 2 privates. Now, those 9 going to UCs. This is exciting. Let me get to my right page here. We're sending 4 students to UC Davis, 2 to UC Merced, 2 to UC Santa Barbara, and 1 to UC Santa Cruz. UC Davis had a record number of first-time freshman applicants this year, over 78,000. They accepted 32,000 students, and 5 of them were Wildcats. That's 10% of our senior class was accepted to UC Davis. 1 decided to go to Santa Cruz instead. Also, 20% of the class is enrolled in attending Sonoma State University. And I'm happy about that too, because our kids have sort of avoided Sonoma State in the past, feeling it's too close to home or for whatever reason. But this group of students took it seriously. They're living at home. They're enjoying Sonoma State so far. They're saving a lot of money by doing it that way. Now, if I could just get them to be our Abbey College tutors, my life would be perfect. They're kind of busy their first freshman year, but the private up there is St. Mary's and California Institute of the Arts. For our events last year, we did quite a bit more career exploration than we have in the past. So through collaboration with the City of Calistoga, the Rotary, the Promise, and the Chamber of Commerce, we were able to offer 2 career fairs where students got to visit with viticulture, enology, public safety, public works, medical, social work, trades, hospitality, utilities, artisans. We had a potter, we had some graphic designers, philanthropy, Napa Learns was there, banking, health and fitness, veterinary, cosmetology, journalism, and retail. And we had 1 job fair that the chamber was very helpful with. They couldn't all call out to the members and said, get there. And we had hospitality, retail, clerical trades, and parks and recreation department, as well as the state park. They came out. They had an opening for some folks there too. And our students were ready with their resumes in hand because we've done a resume cover letter workshop before that. Hoping to do at least 2 more career fairs and hopefully 2 job fairs this year. Our schedule is a little bit challenging. Last year we had the advisory period, and that was really handy for doing that. So I'm working with Craig to figure out when we can do this. We do not have a period in the master schedule during the day that does not have active classes. So Several of you came to signing day. If you couldn't make it last year, I highly recommend you come this year. It's a lot of fun. Every senior signed a contract for whatever their post-secondary pursuits were going to be. And they enjoy it, and we enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. In terms of AVID, I wanted to focus on what's happening with our elective classes, what we're doing school-wide, and what some of our most recent outcomes have been. So AVID is able to use the National Clearinghouse as well as data that our students report. It got louder, a lot louder. That our students self-report in the AVID data system. So we have really good persistence and tracking data for our AVID students. Better? Yes, thank you. We have some new AVID elective teachers. Kathy Bone is doing AVID 12, AVID 11 is Aida Zepeda, AVID 10 and 8, Louise Owens, and AVID 7, Jessica Musser. All of the AVID teachers and Monica Baldenegro and myself all went to the AVID Summer Institute in June, so we're all trained up, know how to do our jobs. For AVID school-wide, through our grant, we're going to be able to provide a school-wide AVID path training in November, learning through writing, a school-wide approach. And then in October, we're sending some folks to path training in Napa. We have a new high school math teacher, Sarah Reiki, and she is going to the mathematics strand. So she will cover her class with a sub on a Friday, and she'll be at her training on Saturday as well. Trustees Reed and Elkishan are going to the one-day district leadership session, and I'm going to check out what all that AVID Elementary that the Napa Unified is so excited about is about. We don't have to pay for me to go, so I get to explore. That's only half true. We pay every year for our contract. I'm sure that covers my free visa. Nothing's free. And in November, Craig will be going to a collaborative leadership training in Santa Rosa as well. So this is what our AVID students have planned for the fall after high school graduation for the last several years. The bar on the far right is AVID US overall. So you can see we're, in terms of our student plans, we're knocking it out of the park. You probably, I don't know if you can see that or not. The red is 2-year and the gold is 4-year. For persistence, it looks like this. So for the class of 2014, 89% of our Hispanic Latino AVID students are persisting, compared to only 85% of AVID Hispanic Latino students nationwide. But that's compared to 79% of all ethnicities in the US. So to me, this graphic shows that the AVID support system works, and it works particularly well for a group of students who are still significantly underrepresented in higher education.
What is persistent represent?
Persistence means enrolling fall to fall. So they have continued to enroll and persist in their education. But I'm glad you asked that question. It does not necessarily mean that they are making progress towards earning a degree. It simply means that they're re-enrolling, which brings up the issue of the 2-year. So John Lowell and I looked back at my first graduating cohort. So I started with them in 2018 and they graduated in 2013, and his graduated in 2014. Of all of our students who went straight to a 4-year, they're either persisting, so they're going into their 5th and 6th years at a 4-year, which isn't bad, or they've graduated. Of all the students who chose to go to a 2-year, only 2 of them have matriculated to a 4-year. Our students aren't unique. That's the picture state nationwide. But that's where I feel a huge responsibility to make sure that students and parents understand what those paths look like. So, you know, the common knowledge has always been, go ahead and start at a community college because it's cheaper. Well, it's not in the long run. The most recent data tells us that it takes students 6 years to earn a bachelor's degree if they start in a community college, and costs approximately $38,000 more for that degree. because it just gets so bogged down in the community college. So a couple of things that raises for me. They need a plan. They need to know what it is they're going for, right? So that they don't flounder around. And they need to know what those paths really look like. Did that? Okay. Moving forward. So, my goals for this year. I've got plans to work with 6th grade teachers and have all 6th graders do some activities in Naviance, including making academic plans and goals aligned with learning styles. So I think everyone probably knows that my position has been expanded to full-time, and I'm looking forward to working with the elementary school teachers and students more this year. I'd also like to work with some younger students to bring in guest speakers. We have a lot of Avid graduates who've come back to the community. Tanya Lopez is working at the Family Center. Wendy Garcia, Eileen Robledo are working in professions associated with their degrees that they just finished last December over in Santa Rosa. Wendy's at the Santa Rosa Junior College. I think it would be great to have them come in and talk to younger students about their experience. Career exploration through Naviance. So I went to the Naviance Summer Institute. There's a lot in Naviance that we have not been taking advantage of, and that's going to be my job. So I'm looking forward to helping not just students but parents use those tools to explore interests and strengths and how those align to potential careers and how one goes about getting those careers. This is just a snapshot of a plan that Michelle, Craig Morales, and I put together in attempting to schedule all of the things that we need access to students for. And we've been working with Craig on how to make that happen. So for example, the green bars, the sort of Wildcat green bars, are things that students can do on their own in Naviance. The dark purple are things that I need to push into their classes to support them with. So there's at least 2 things that they should be doing with Naviance at every grade level. And what we know is the more students use any tool, the more proficient they become with it, the more likely they are to begin to rely on it and utilize it to its full advantage. And that's what I've got for you.
Nicely done. Any questions?
I do have one question.
Yes.
Would you like-
I've said last sentence, and I know she's going to be all over it.
Uh-oh.
I'm out. The tracking, so I hear you saying you're tracking some Avid students coming back, which is awesome, but to see the persistence and to be able to track that, I think we're going to really put something in place now that we have full time to where we can really keep track of our students.
Yes.
And offer them support. If you go to the junior college and then drop out, certificate program for something.
Yes. That reminds me, we had an Avid student who was accepted to and planning to attend Sonoma State. And that didn't work based on final grades. So that student has now gone to Santa Rosa Junior College, but has a transfer agreement. So arming them with that knowledge that when you take this path, this is how you do it. You know, I hear from students all the time that the counselors at the community colleges just aren't accessible. But I also listened to a podcast this summer that talked specifically about first-generation college students and summer melt, which is the phenomenon where students are accepted and then they don't show up. And the biggest hurdle that they identify for first-generation students is that they are too intimidated to ask a stranger a question. It's something they feel like they should already know, and they're ashamed that they don't. So these folks at the university that was studying this actually created an app so that students could text the app, and it had a bank of questions, so it would respond to them, oh, you do this, right? And then if it was something that the computer or the algorithm couldn't respond to, it went to a real person. But there was this anonymity, so that the kids would ask these questions. So one of the things we're able to do in a small school, and it's something the Avid teachers have always done, and now I can do that more in my new role, is to be that contact person for them. Because they get to a point where they will ask us those questions they think they should already know the answer to.
And I think with the graduating class of 150 students every year, there's no reason why we can't still continue these
Absolutely.
I would like to follow up on that. I totally agree with Trustee Alderson. But so what I understand is we're only tracking average students. What about the rest of the students? Because I see a lot of our graduates around town not going to school, so I'm kind of shocked about these numbers. Or coming back from university or some of these other colleges and not in school anymore. I understand California is way behind in tracking their graduates. What are we doing?
What we can do is go through a list of students and try to call each and every one of them. And that's what John and I were able to do with our Avid graduates, because that was a smaller list, right? And then I have tried to do that, let's say for the graduating class of 2013. I've done that with my Avid graduates because I could get a hold of them. The rest of the class, I'm not as successful in getting a hold of because they haven't stayed in touch with me, because that relationship just didn't exist. There is the National Clearinghouse, which we have access to through Naviance. There have been glitches with it. There have been reports that I've looked at that I've known that child didn't persist and that child did persist. I ask about that at the Naviance Summer Institute. In many cases, it depends on student self-reporting, but it also depends on institutions reporting in it accurately and in a timely manner. So there are lots of ways. I think our best bet is going to be to exit survey students and try to figure out some kind of a way to stay in touch with them, and then compare what we think we know that way to what Naviance can give us from the National Clearinghouse. So my understanding of the National Clearinghouse, Mark, is that all students are assigned a permanent state student ID number. So when a student leaves here and registers for classes at UC Santa Cruz, they're in that database. And we should be able to pull that and see that that student is in fact persistent. But it's not perfect, and we get a little cheat with Avid because they do some of that work for us. Does that make sense? But yeah, no, we need to know.
Just to do a little education on that, has at least to say, we're here.
Yes.
Who's going to keep in touch?
Yep, exactly.
I just
Go ahead.
want to say that Carla's position is currently funded half by our district with your support and half of the grant and half of the grant. That grant will slowly evolve to us taking on more responsibility. It's invaluable having Carla and the culture person for we're going to take on more responsibility. Thank you for supporting her going to the Naviance conference. It's very helpful. She brought back a lot of excitement, a lot of new information, how we can use all the tools within Naviance.
Well, and Carla, the consistency that you brought has been key. It really has. I mean, years ago it was like whatever grant we could get would fund whatever person. So having you as that key contact, providing the consistency for the community, for us on the board, for the service clubs and so on and so forth, it's been wonderful. So,
Thank you. I
thank you so
appreciate
much.
the opportunity to do that. Yeah. And what Craig said reminded me, one of the things I learned at Naviance also, and this goes to one of our WASC issues, we can be doing four-year plans in Naviance. And we could even begin students as early as 6th grade thinking about that four-year plan. So that'll help with all of that follow-up too. If we know where we're all starting from, then we can have better conversations about where we're going as we're going and getting there. So,
All right. Any other questions?
thank you.
Great, thank you, Bob. .3, Calistoga Elementary School Principal Reports. Or Nicole.
We'll see how.
Getting a little feedback from the mic here. Good evening, everyone. First thing I wanted to talk about is in August. It's been a while since, I feel like it's been a long time since I've been here last. For one of our staff development days, we had Restorative Resources come. They worked with not only our certificated teachers, but also our classified paraeducators. It has been quite a while since we've had both groups receiving the same training, and it was very powerful, and I go into some detail within the board report on the activities that they've done. Since that training, I've had the opportunity to be able to sit in some of the restorative circles. Right now, the phase that we're on is really building community and coming up with common agreements. And it's been fascinating for me because it allows me to see some of our students in a different light with how they share information and how they see things. So we are going to be having 90 hours of mentoring starting this Wednesday, and she's going to be working not only with our certificated staff, but also with our paraeducators as well. And they are not only, paraeducators not only work in the classroom, but many of them also serve as supervisors during the unstructured recess time. Today was the start of our grade-alike release days. We're doing half grade per grade level, so today I met with 3rd and 4th grade teachers. We reviewed our current local data points. I'm pleased to announce also for our primary grades, we also had our intervention specialist part of these groups as well. And so it was nice to be able to go through the data, and for those students who are really academically struggling at the beginning of the year, we're starting them already on a cycle of reading support. And then from there, we make our instructional next steps to push those middle level students. And then in December, we'll be relooking at the data as well. Today, we did have a training on our grade book on Illuminate. And why we're going in this direction at the elementary is that our report cards are on Illuminate. And so we did some cosmetic fix-ups on the report card, a couple of standard changes of focus, but not huge shifts. But with the Illuminate system, visually our report cards look a lot better and easier to read. So gone are the days of the 8-point font. We're now at 11-point font in 6th grade. So you don't have to take out a magnifying glass in order to read the report card. We also have flexibility of how we can print them out to address our Spanish-speaking population, but also get a copy of the English version in every CUNY folder, which we were unable to do with our previous system. But really, the point of getting grade books onto Illuminate is that teachers are able to enter their assignments by standard, and then basically it will populate the report card of each student, and then from there they can make adjustments. So they're not having to do all those, what they call the dreaded clicks of, I gotta click here, I gotta click here, I gotta click here. The grades that are moving forward with the report cards that link to, or excuse me, the grade books that link to the report cards are grades 1 through 6. Kindergarten, we're still pulling back a little bit, but they do get a reformatted report card. And then, are you going to talk about Aries Communicate? Okay. I'm just going to give a shout out. We have 327 contacts, so I'll leave it at that, which is awesome because we have one grade level. We only had 20 last year, so 327 makes me happy. And then this month we started our new parent engagement series, which is taking over from Coffee and Conversation. We are trying to explore topic by topic. We were lucky to have Triple P, who is out of the Family Center, to come and talk about supporting children with homework and how to establish routines at home. I'm hoping to get them to also present at an ELAC meeting as well, and we're going to be looking at other topics such as digital citizenship, looking at also, as we get towards the end of the year, supporting not having the summer slide, and basically we started out with 4 people. I did get feedback from parents saying, oh, I really wanted to go, so I'm making sure that everyone is getting those dates for the next October training. So that's what's going on at CES.
Very impressed.
I got a good team.
Moving on. Is that whiteboard? Junior high, senior high? Mr. Whitlock.
Well, thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you for all your support as a Board of Education for our schools. Just recently, with the help of Michael and Aaron, we were able to hire a after-school library tech position. So our library is open now until 5:30 every day. And Doris is in there. She's in there with Judy, one of our paraprofessionals, who's helping with our bilingual. She's roaming around, helping kids stay on track. It's just wonderful. There's a lot of kids in there. And Thursday, when I left, she was still there at 5:30, and there were still kids in there. So it's been wonderful. So thank you. I appreciate that. And so do our kids. So our report, what my plan is because last time we talked about WASP and some of the things, well, all the things that we need to address from the WASP report. And so every time we have a board meeting, I'm going to put some of these items in there and let you know what we're doing and to rectify those things that were listed. So the first are school-wide systems and protocol for data analysis that need to be implemented. 2, data should be shared, discussed school-wide, determine if students are meeting the academic standards, and accountability for administering and analyzing assessment data is in 11. So you can read into detail about each one of these. I'll just give you a summation that with your support, our English language arts teachers and our math teachers met. It was a great opportunity for our math teachers because we, as you know, hired 2 new math teachers. And they had the first opportunity to meet with Ms. Bone and Ms. Probst, and they started looking at data, analyzing the data, looking at where our strengths are, where we can show growth in. And one of the things that we are happy about seeing is that we are within the junior high showing improvement from the previous year, and that we still need to work on 11th grade with our CAS scores there. And they are planning on giving 3 assessments, both groups are, throughout the year. We call them benchmarks to see where students, like I said before, know what they'll be able to do at that point in time. They're going to sit and have a planning day afterwards, analyze the data, and then if they need to spiral back again, come back again and reteach certain things, they'll be able to use that data to determine that. But really the goal is they don't want to leave any student behind. They want to keep moving forward, but if they need to, they'll go back and assess that. With your support too, our district spends a little extra money to hire some, one of these teachers to also help with support in the math intervention classes. And those classes are divided between Ms. Probst, Ms. Woodberg, one of our new teachers, Ms. Rake, and Ms. Bone. All 4 of them have intervention classes. And those students who are in intervention are also in a math class. So it's not like, okay, you're in intervention and you don't have math, you're just in intervention. No, they have math and they have intervention. And they're using MI information to go back and say, okay, you need to work on fractions or you need to work on this and this. And we're using Alex to do that, and some Khan Academy, which is a great tool. It assesses the students and gives them targeted information and problems to work through that help them improve in those specific target areas. Because so often in intervention class, it's not a one, we're all learn about fractions. Well, you might have kids who are already really great at fractions, right? But then you may have some students who aren't really great at fractions. So the great thing about Alex is it targets the students in a specific area so they can get work and improvement on that, all while they're still in a class. What does this mean for our students? Our goal was not to have students in 2 intervention classes, which some of our students could be in 2 intervention classes. But what that means in the junior high is that you have PE, you have social studies, you have science, and then if you're in a math intervention and an English intervention class, you also have English and math. No electives at all. And that's difficult for a student to come every day and not have something that they can say, oh, okay, I'm taking art, or I'm taking Mr. Perry's woodshop class, or whatever. So we had to sometimes, in certain situations, make a decision. Where was the biggest need to target these kids? And if it was reading, then they were in a reading intervention class. If it was math, math. We do have some students who were so far behind, when we give our students that they had to be in both classes. That's just the way it is. And so those planning days were very fruitful. and they created a plan for how they're going to assess and then look at the data. We also spent one of our whole days, our first PED day, was looking at the CAS results, albeit they are not finalized, but they are results. And they give us a rough estimate of how well our students are doing and where are those areas that need improvement on. The whole staff looked at the data. We strategized together, how can we support the reading in a social studies? How can we support reading in art and writing? And how can we do this in a woodshop and so on? Because our teachers all know that it's not just the responsibility of the English teacher or the math teacher to show improvements in those areas. It's everyone's responsibility because it's all of us who are getting a score, right, on how well our students are doing. So that was really great, looking at data and then talking about it and where we can support our students and where we can celebrate. One of those areas that we needed support in was in our advanced placement in AP English, and our district supported our AP English teacher to go to AP training, which he hadn't been for a while, came back very excited with new ideas and how we can help improve the scores in that area. And we also sent our new AP Calculus teacher to a training, and she came back extremely excited, and with the support of the district, we purchased a piloting new AP Calculus books. So that's great. And like I said in the report, our AP Spanish language students really knocked it out of the park. They far exceeded the state average. Only one student did not pass the AP exam, which is unheard of for the AP Spanish language test. So kudos to Ms. Orozco, and kudos to our students for doing such an amazing job in the AP Spanish language. So I talked about our professional development day at the Boys and Girls Club. Some of our staff had never been there before. Pretty amazing. You've all been there, right? It's incredible support. And then we delved into the college and career indicators and how we can ensure that all students are prepared. And I believe I sent you the sort of flow chart and diagram of what it means to be prepared, what you need to qualify for. And so we're, I think once we get all our students through the junior year who are currently now 10th graders, we'll have every student will be a pathway completed. That'll be a big kudo for us. And either in construction, biotechnology, or physics and chemistry, or alternative energy. And then also too, we want to target those students. We would like a majority of our students who are A through G, especially our avid students, to be A through G. And as you know, to be A through G, you have to have a C or better. You can't have a D. And so with this after-school program that we're offering right now for students to be able to, let's say you received a D in an Algebra 2 class, well, that's not acceptable for college. You have to get a C or better. So they'll be able to come after school and work with Ms. Brooks through Apex to raise their grades up to a C level. And that will get more students qualified to be prepared, and also A through G prepared. Like Ms. Serber talked about, we sent some staff to Avid, and then we are now a school of 400 students. Hard to believe. I think Maria, one of our office staff, said she was a graduate class of 32, and some classes were probably a little smaller than that, and so we're seeing larger numbers here, more kids showing up to our school. And some of it is to partially, we have 10 students coming from a closed school in St. Helena, Catholic school, so we've got some students there. But we're just seeing big numbers of students. And to support those students, we're very fortunate to have clubs on campus, ACE, and some after-school programs. I think I've told you in the past that we wrote 3 or 4 years ago a grant through the Department of Education called the CTEG grant, C-T-E-I-G grant, and that was to fund our biotech program. We've expanded it to help support our construction pathway and our alternative energy pathway. And those teachers are using part of that money to do after-school tutoring for kids who are struggling in 9th grade science, and that's exciting. If you receive a phone call from our school because they want your child to be there, it's just to help support them. This year, we are offering for the first time a junior high ASB class. We haven't offered this school site for quite a while, and the last time Ms. Heck and Mr. Hartel did this, it was I think 7 or 8 years ago. We're exciting. We paid for them to have a release date, sort of plan, set goals. Their goal is pretty simple. They want to raise school spirit at our school, and they've already started that process. They're a really great team working together, and they've got a lot of energy, and they're getting a lot of students involved. So look for good things from both of them. And then thank you for those people who are going to be volunteering at the Challenge Day. I know some of you have said that you can do it. I know there's lots of other things going on. We're really excited about this. It's going to be a big couple days for our 8th and 9th graders. And then our 2 athletic directors, as you know, we have 2 new ones, Mr. Heitz and Ms. Owens. They're doing a fantastic job. They work really well as a team. A good example was Friday. We got a call from Upper Lake. They decided to move the referees from our game to another school, but no plan to replace the referees. There was nothing. So with their help and with the AD's help at Upper Lake, we were able to find some type of resolution. It wasn't ideal, but it worked. Our kids, I have to say, and with the help of our coaches, Mr. Lindo and Coach Gay, played extremely hard. They had probably, Mark, how many, 23 kids to draw from to substitute. And our kids with 8-man football, there's only 10 kids who were eligible, and one of them was not eligible. 10 kids there, but one child got hurt. So they had to play both sides, and they played with extreme heart, and as you know, the results were that we won. It was a fantastic win. Our teams are doing fairly well. Volleyball is split with wins and losses. Our soccer team is undefeated. Football is 2 wins, 1 loss. And our girls soccer hasn't had a league game yet. We've had some scrimmages, so we don't know the results from that yet. So our fall sports are off to a good start. Parent engagement, like I said, we're looking for 2 parents to serve on site council. No wonder Ms. Hickman was awarded from CES. She's volunteered to be one of our site council reps. She's great. Thank you very much. She's committed. And so Maria gave me a list of some parents who submitted some forms possibly to be on the site council. That's good news. We had an ELAC meeting last week, and one of the things that came out of it was the need for our parents to possibly have more information related to the WASC. And so we're going to set up a parent night for that. One of the things that we also discussed that we feel like we need here is a parent association. Some schools have associations, and some schools call it the PTA. What I've found in most secondary schools, it's usually just a parent association. We always encourage teachers to be a part of it. And so that's one of our goals this year, to get a parent association started this year for parent engagement. Nicole touched on areas of communication and back to school night. We were able to get quite a few parents signed up for Parent Portal. It's vitally important they do because they can check their students' attendance, their grades, what they turn assignments in, and it was really cute. I went into it after the portal, and I'm talking a long time, portal workshop. There was a parent with another parent who had not been to the Parent Portal, and both parents had their 8th graders with them. And the one parent was explaining the Parent Portal, you've got to get signed up on this. And the one child said, no, you don't want to do that. Because they realized that what empowerment it does for the parents to be able to see on a phone, on any device, if they're turning their assignments in, or when they're targeting to school, and so on. So our focus is to get 100% of all our students and parents onto a portal, and so they can see that. So thank you. In next board meeting, I'll bring 3 more WASC items back to you. We'll talk about how we're addressing those WASCs and then one following the same. Carla touched on the 4-year plan. That was part of the WASC. And both she and Ms. Kramer also have a plan that they're going to initiate come October and into November with the parents involved with that in 9th grade for the 4-year plan. Carla will initiate 11th grade. I don't want to ruin it, but they've got a plan involved and they'll be presenting at the next board meeting. They'll be presenting their 4-year plan to you.
Two questions. One, you said the A through G requirements don't have the students. It's possible for a student not an average to have all the A through G requirements, correct?
It's possible for every student to be A through G, right?
Okay, that's kind of how to add it. My next question is on ALEC. You say the intervention class. ALEC, is that correct? Is that the curriculum?
The purpose of Alex is part of the invention, but it's just one component of it.
All right, so what happens, the child comes in system class, and the present curriculum is happening for, say, 10th grade math, and they're in that intervention. When does that intervention begin? Like, isn't the teacher teaching at the beginning of the class, there's problems to solve or methods, and so when exactly does that intervention?
It's in a separate class. So the child is in both their math, say geometry, or their algebra class, but they could also be in an intervention class too. Same thing with they're in 7th grade Common Core Math, they're in 8th grade Common Core Math, and junior high is where we have the largest number of students who need intervention, and we have 3 periods of it there. So those students are both in intervention and in 7th and 8th grade Common Core Math. And in the high school, we have 2 intervention classes, very small intervention classes, and they are mostly 9th and 10th graders, and all those students are in either algebra or geometry.
Two different classes.
They're 2 different classes, yeah. And we try not to have the same teacher teaching them, because as you can imagine, you've been in a school or class environment, that everyone has a different approach, and sometimes it's good to have students have an opportunity to learn from someone else in a different manner, a different approach.
And also, would you please make that the loss report available to the board?
Sure, glad to. I think, Aaron, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I can address that later.
Yeah, that'd be great. We have a plan.
All right, good question. Moving on, 7.5, educational services and human resources reports. Well, welcome, Michael.
Thanks, my first report.
Yeah.
So on educational services, I can report out an item that relates to LCAP Goal 1, ensuring academic excellence for all students. So at the elementary and junior and senior high school, we are currently in the process of
How about
administering.
putting that a little bit closer?
Yeah, you bet.
There you go. There you go.
So we're currently in the process of administering the LPAC exam at the elementary and junior-senior high school level. And the LPAC replaces the previous CELT test. This is our first full year of LPAC implementation. At the beginning of the year, we did the initial test. And so the initial test, we test students who have been, this is their first time in a public school in California, and they have a language other than English as their primary language in the home. And so with that, the majority of our kids who take the initial are kindergarten students. We have 52 students being tested at the elementary level, almost all of them kindergarten students, 7 students being tested at the junior senior high school. And I want to thank Nicole, Lamar, and Monica Valdegra. They really handled the administration of the test at the site level. And I also want to recognize our paraprofessional team at CPS, Anna Orozco, and Carolyn Craigie at the junior senior high school for their work as test examiners. All in all, I think it's been a smooth implementation. Once we have the results, we should be done within the next 2 weeks. We'll know which of our new students are English learners, and we'll know what their levels are. And once we know that, we can put services in place to make sure that they're making proper English language development progress. So that's what's happening recently in Ed Services. For human resources, I can report out on the progress of hiring for Director of Business Services, which is exciting work for us. We marketed that job on EdJoin, and EdJoin is the kind of one-stop shop for educators looking for jobs. We also did some paid advertising through professional organizations, CASBO and AXA, and also some word-of-mouth communication by members of our leadership team. We even had some teachers out there doing recruiting for us. The job posted last night, closed last night, and we're pretty excited about the applicants that we have in there. We are paper screening today and tomorrow, and that's Steve, myself, and then Amy Stubbs from St. who's helping us with our paper. We are looking at tentative interviews, tentatively set for Friday, September 21st, will be the first round. And assuming we find an exceptional candidate, we look forward to bringing him or her to you next month. Also, I can just give you a preview of next month's meeting. I look forward to reporting out on CAS scores and AP scores. We know that CAS scores have been embargoed throughout the state right now. And so we have them, but they're unable to speak about them publicly. It's the Public Works Board at this point. But we feel comfortable that next month we should be able to have that conversation and I look forward to presenting it to you.
Any questions? All right, awesome, good. Glad you're here.
Thank you. Be here.
7.7. Oh, yeah, business services report.
That's fine.
Sorry, Steve.
Thank you. I'll just summarize my report and a couple other things. We can see that we had a secretary's meeting. The three of us met with our secretarial staff. The district office thanks to the principals for releasing them for an hour. It was time to touch base and let them know who we were, but also try to hear how it went for opening a school and see how the district office can support them and what they're trying to do. So we really appreciate getting to know them and getting together with them. Our auditors left last Friday at around 4:30. It was a good thing when you see the auditor team that we've worked with the last couple of years walk in. It was a relief to me because they're the same ones that we used in my previous district. So they did have a brief report, just pointed out a couple of things and said it was a good visit. It seemed to go pretty well, so you'll hear that in December. There'll be a report out on what the auditors had to say. The new person in my seat will take over on that. Chris Oates and I are working on the safety credit budget that we received. And a couple of items that are in there are safety hazards, like slips, trips, and falls are one of the big ones. And just grinding down some of the areas that are raised in the cement is a one, and walkie-talkies. We've identified a need for walkie-talkies or replacing walkie-talkies for safety issues. So we have access and communication for our staff. Chris has asked for a shower in the maintenance department, so he can shower before he goes home and be relaxed on the drive home, so that's another safety issue. And
Cold water only though.
so that's for chemical spills, we rush them over and go through the,
We get the
not a hot
hot
tub,
springs.
through the shower.
What if it does for that?
And the driver's list, the process for getting approval, Julie, I need to talk to you about that too. I'm just kidding. You're approved.
Oh, you didn't pass?
The process is going and trying to keep everybody in the communication loop of who's been approved. So appreciate this. My time here is almost done. I have about roughly a couple weeks. So thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
Appreciate all your help, Steve. Okay, now moving on.
Thank you. Under goal cap number 1, we've had a really positive start to the school year. Our new teachers appear to have transitioned well into their new assignments. And as I've been talking to them for the last 3 weeks, they have expressed how grateful they are to their colleagues and to their principals as well as the board. That's great. Under LCAP goal number 2, our annual facilities inspection was conducted last week by an outside agency called Facilities Inspection Services. The FIT results are required and have to be reported in our school the report cards, you see this before. And then they also have to be included in our LCAP map, and that will come under goal number 2. We have an outstanding facility staff, as you know, so I anticipate that we'll receive another strong rating. And then under LCAP goal number 3, increasing their engagement. The first ELAC meeting of the year was held, as you heard earlier. Monica is the new ELAC chair, and Nicole was kind enough to serve as a translator for most of those of us who are English speakers in the room. There were 23 people in attendance, which I thought was outstanding there. And the agenda included training on the role of the ELAC, setting meeting dates for the year, and then determining topics of interest in future meetings. As Craig mentioned earlier, there was a concern that they did not know enough about the WASP report. They explained, they read the article in the paper. And so he is going to be hosting a separate meeting, but we also thought it might be a good idea for the board to consider holding a board workshop to present the report and also the report staff to discuss as far as next steps. So that's important. That's all I have.
questions? Moving on. Consent calendar, item number 8, and this requires a roll call vote. And actions proposed for the consent agenda are deemed routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless any member of the board, the audience, or staff request specific items to be removed from the consent agenda for separate action. So I'm looking for a motion. And Matt seconds. All in favor? Aye. And absent is zero. This is roll call. Clerk Epperson. Trustee Lopez, she's absent. Trustee Reed. Aye. Trustee Gundo. Aye. And President Maxfield. Aye. Action items. Number 9. Protocol for action items includes staff presentation, questions from the board, public input, deliberation by the board, and voting by the board. During public input, there will be a 3-minute time limit per person. 9.2, Resolution 18-19-01, sufficiency of educational materials. Superintendent.
All school districts in California are required to approve. They're required to prove that we have
Yeah.
the sufficiency of instructional materials for, so every child has the instructional materials in art materials, science materials, textbooks, and so we are sufficient for this resolution.
Okay. Looking for a motion?
I so moved.
Second? Mark? All in favor? Aye. Resolution 9.3, or section 9.3, resolution 18-19-02, student representative instruction. So, it is requested that we adopt resolution 18-1902, authorizing our student representative, Nayeli Lara, to make a motion as specified above. So I'm looking for a motion. Mark, seconded. Julie, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome. So since it's your first meeting, there was no report to have you report to the board, but your next meeting, we will expect something from you. Tell us what's going on in the high school. Okay? All right. But welcome. 9.4, Resolution 18-19-03, GAN limit approach. Steve, I didn't forget you. And you have to bear with me, audience, that we're doing the new board agenda, and it's kind of different than how we were doing it before, so it's only what, our second time for, yeah. Oh, gee, thank you.
This is the GAN limit model. Okay. I was counting, it was 17 years ago when I asked a lawyer, what's this GAN limit all about? And he said, don't worry, you'll never have to explain it at a meeting because your property taxes will never exceed what the appropriation is. This happened this year in Calistoga. So to cut to the chase, Paul Gann, 1979, authored a bill that was passed to basically say that you can't go past your allowable appropriation limit. And if you look at page, I have a different thing, so if you look at the sheet that's here, in 16-17, our appropriation limit was $12,454,000. And our unaudited actuals show that we have $13,600,000 coming in, so we've exceeded it. And you do this in a 2-year period, so we're doing it for 17, 18, 18, 19. So by exceeding it, we had to make sure that we pass a resolution. Every year you pass a resolution. We're passing a resolution asking for our limit to increase by $755,000. So the county office is very interested in making sure that we pass this resolution tonight because we want to make sure that we're leveled properly. So we don't have to give anything back at a certain point.
Well, we like that part. Questions? No. All right. Well, the motion is to,
Take any recommendations, so where's the?
For me,
okay, yeah. So the request is to adopt this resolution. Matt? Julie, all in favor? Oh, yeah. 9.5, Resolution 18-1904, authorization to sign on behalf of the governing board, superintendent.
You actually approved an authorization to sign on behalf of the board in June, but that also included Jen Burrow's name, and with her resignation, we obviously have to remove her off this authorization.
So that's all this is.
Correct. And once we hire a new director of business, I will bring back the authorization and make that business.
All right. Request is to adopt the resolution as presented. Anyone second? All in favor? Aye. 9.6, memorandum of understanding with Calistoga Associated Teachers. Michael?
So we have an MOU between the district and CAT as it relates to placing the drama director position back on the salary scale. Yep. So we wanted to post for this position this year. Greg and I had talked about that. It's in the best interest of kids to offer drama, but then we saw that it's not on the salary scale. So what this does is it puts the drama director position back on the salary scale for the year. It allows us to post for it so that we can hire and provide the club for kids.
Okay. Well, the request is approved, the attached MOU. Looking for a motion? Julie? Mark, second. All right, we're all good. All right, all in favor? Aye. Let's see, agreement with therapy travelers. That's Michael again.
So we have historically contracted for occupational therapy services. We have a small number of students that require these services, and so it has made sense to contract. Most recently, we contracted with a company out of Utah that provided online therapy. So as a therapist, we kind of provided it through a TV screen to students. And we were very interested this year in having an in-person therapist to provide services. And so we were very pleased that we found a therapist through Therapy Travelers, which is a good organization for us to work with. And so this agreement will allow us to bring a person onto our campus to work with our students and also be part of the team. So the reasons the board will recommend this.
So it seems a little better than Skype.
Yeah, I think the other services is legally defensible and it provides services, but I do think that this is in the best interest of students to have an in-person therapist.
All right. Well, the request is to approve the agreement with Therapy Travelers as presented. Mark? And Matt? All in favor? Aye. All right, 9.8. Cal Office of Emergency Services 130 form. Steve?
the fires that happened last fall created a time where students were not attending school. And the Office of Emergency Services actually have come forth with some money to help replace some of that lost attendance. And with that, it says we are required to complete OES 130, a form which designates somebody in our district that will be the authorized signator on that. And Erin's name is down there. She'll be that person, since we do not know who the Director of Business Services will be at this moment. Ask you to approve that.
So I guess we got to fill out a form to get some donations.
Yeah, it's about it's anywhere from 8,000, it could top out to 10,000.
All donations graciously accepted. Request to approve the OS as presented. So, Matt and Mark, all in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, Steve again, 9.9, unaudited actuals. Ooh.
PowerPoint, and I will just hand out some of these documents.
This big.
I did this last time I presented. One of the sheets going around may have my notes on it. So we have one with notes on the bottom. Give it back, or you'll test my memory.
Not mine. Did you forget it?
I must have buried it. Here it is.
Ah, yeah.
There should be some left. It's pretty obvious. Here it is.
Which one? You need to grab it. Keep on going in and out.
Now we can hear. Now you can hear.
Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Okay, so I'm here to present the unaudited actuals. Unaudited actuals are mandated by the state education code that says that we will, 42100, says that we'll do a report after the books are closed and mandated by September 15th, and we'll tell you what the status was of the books as they closed as far as the budget goes. And one of the purposes of looking at the budget is to see do they meet what your vision is for what you want to have happen in this district. And for us, it is to make sure that we are supporting students in the classroom. And you'll see as we go through the budget that is occurring and doing it even more so this year. So Paula, which one do I press? I'm wearing one of my glasses for this so I can see my notes.
It's hell getting old, isn't it, Steve?
It is. After the board approves the budget, there's a lot of work that happens before September 15th. And basically, end of June, the books are being closed. You can say they're closed, but there's a lot of work in making sure you're collecting all the invoices, making sure they're paid, making sure you're taking care of the receivables, and you're really shutting down 17-18. And so when this time comes, we've already had a couple months that the budget's changing. And the budget is constantly in change. So as we look at the budget this time, I want to just point out some things. One of the sheets you have, first one you have is the unaudited actuals, unrestricted and restricted revenue. I thought it'd be good to look at where is our revenue coming from. You can see that 89% comes from the local control funding formula. That 500,000 of that is state money, one-time discretionary dollars that we're given, the rest is in property taxes. That's why you're a community funded or basically a district, because the property taxes are huge for this district. You can see sometimes it's a surprise that federal revenue is very little compared to what a lot of people think we receive from the federal government. So it's 1%. Other state revenue comes in at 7%. That is our special ed Title I, that is our mandated cost reimbursement, lottery funds, career technical education. That is also inflated a little bit, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And other local revenue, you just heard Carla talking about scholarship money. Scholarship money comes into this. We know that it kicks right back out. Also, it's donations. It's safety grant money that we receive. It's E-rate rebate. So that's what goes in the local revenue. So overall, our total revenues are almost $16.5 million. And please, if you have questions as we go along, please ask. Again, on property taxes, our secured is the main part of that. And for secured, that's if you have property and it has land or some value on that, that's our secured property taxes, and that's where we're getting it from. And that's collected November 1st, April 1st. Everybody's familiar with property taxes, I think. And then you have the unsecured, which it may be land, it may be something that you have to be able to go after if the taxes are levied and you can't afford to pay that. So you can see most of it is secured property taxes, $13.6 million in property taxes. And 96% of it is secured. So our focus is on instruction and students and what's going on in the classroom. You can see where our expenditures are. When we get up into a rate of 77% are spent on personnel to work with students. Where does that fall? It used to be about 80% of the budget was probably about average in California. The change in local control funding formula, how dollars are divvied up, and what they're spoken for at the local level has changed a little bit. And our district is 77%. So it is, again, concentrating on serving students. And you can see books and supplies, another expenditure goes directly towards students. That is increasing some this year. The services and other operating is 18%. That's our legal costs. That's what we pay for athletic costs. That is, there were a couple of others that stood out. Utilities, travel and conference. We also have agreements with our partnership with Napa County Office of Education. So that's what service and other operating are. That's 18% of that. So our expenditures are 14.8 million, almost 14.9 million. So we go forward. If you've done the math already, you can see that we are in a good trend of going and not exceeding how much money we have, which is unusual for a lot of districts in California. We are not deficit spending, and you need to be applauded for that because that doesn't happen a lot in California these days. It's changed a little bit, but on D, other financing sources. Although we have 1.5 in excess over expenditures, we do have some contributions to cafeteria, $330,000 to cafeteria, and we have contributions for capital facilities. The work that was done over the elementary school along the creek bed, you put aside dollars in capital facilities, and so there were some contributions of $581,000. So overall, the net increase was $982,000. That is unaudited actuals. That's last year. We're talking about last year. We're already moving into this year. So let's see what that looks like. Any questions so far? So as we look ahead to this year, try to make sure, in some ways, comparing unaudited actuals and the budget for 18-19 is like apples and oranges because it's in constant change. It's hard to say. It's going to be similar to similar. So, but I do think there's some value in comparing this. For example, the LCFF, local control funding formula, property taxes, we're paying to go up about 6% in your budget. We just received word last week that those might be generous from the county Napa County Office Assessor, and I think Aaron might have him come and speak if that gets arranged. So that might be a little bit generous. How generous, we're not sure yet, so that's just a caution on that. Federal revenue went up a little bit because for this year we're able to cash in on our total Title I dollars that we were given. Last year, there was an application for Title I funding again that hadn't been in the district for a while. And so we do have those dollars we'll be able to utilize in the coming year. So although we're up 89%, it's not an enormous gain, but that's what it was for. And also some Title II dollars and special ed dollars, very little of it special ed dollars. On our other state revenue, you can see that change very little. There was a mandated cost reimbursement for this is actually a California Clean Energy Jobs Act. Those dollars aren't going to be available this year, so that's a change there. And then other local revenue looks like it took a big hit, but for donations, you do not budget it until you receive them. Because that would be a fatal flaw if they didn't come in. So as they come in, typically you'll see that account grow in local revenue. Any questions on revenue? For expenditures for 1819, you can see that compared to audited, our budget went up $501,000 in expenditures. That should be no surprise because we added intervention services. We've added some teaching and added Michael's position. So that's very helpful in supporting students in the classroom. The trade-off for what happened in the district office was if you look at classified salaries, they dropped by $209,000. There was a restructuring in the district office, which Michael's now wearing the hat of Director of Ed Services and HR. So that was a change that happened. And then employee benefits will go up as your salaries go up. So that's the cost of that. Books and supplies, there will be some more spending in books and supplies to reflect a focus on improvement of instruction and giving services to students in the classroom. And those are the main changes in expenditures. So overall, you can see our net increase down at E dropped a little bit over what the actuals say. That's due to the focus on adding staffing to address instruction and student needs, especially for intervention services. So you could say it's focused on where it's focused. That's what the board's focusing on. I know that's what the superintendent's focused on, is looking at what's going on in the classroom, what sources and resources can we provide for them. So that's a summary of actuals compared to what the budget is looking for now for 1819. Any questions?
Thank you. All right, well, the request is to approve the unaudited actuals as presented. And seconded by Matt. All in favor? Aye. Hey, look at that. Item 10, closing items, board meeting calendar. Upcoming board meeting, November 5th. Well, what about the October? October 8th. All right, November 5th and December 10th. Okay. Upcoming events and activities, 24th to the 25th is the challenge day. I know a couple of, I think Indira is, yeah, it's kind of tough for some of us that have a day job to do that. I don't know it's a worthwhile thing.
I'll be there.
Okay, well, thank you. 6th grade trip to Yosemite. So Michelle, is that your second trip?
No,
First trip?
it was my first, your first, it will be a second one.
2 years. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I've been in like,
2 years?
4 years.
Yeah. Well, that's a good trip. Homecoming, the 1st to the 5th. Parade?
Yes,
Yeah.
we'll be going by the elementary school this year.
Oh, good.
The bridge is back, so.
Yes, that's always fun.
Our sixth graders will be in Yosemite.
Our next home game back now.
Lots of
Okay.
Anderson Valley Drive.
Oh, really? Well, they usually have a good food. Tentative future agenda items, a facilities project report, a WASP status update, maybe a governing board session to be determined. Yeah. So there is no need to reconvene to closed session. And so I'm looking for item 10.6. Motion to adjourn, second it? Matt, all in favor? Aye. All right, thank you for everybody's coming.
I have a question.